stick a rocket on me. Let me see what I can find.
This is definitely going to make the other edit.
We had all of this duplication of data, having to manually enter data multiple times. The thing that really swung it for us was the API with Storeganise and the ability for us to then connect it in with our CRM. We very quickly established that Storeganise on paper was what we needed.
Hey, I'm Jack. I'm the head of sales at Storeganise, and I'm based in Barcelona, Spain. And today I'm talking to...
Yeah, hi, I'm Ricky. I am the managing director of the Space program. We are a family-owned self-storage business based in the southwest of the UK. We currently have 9 self-storage facilities, all dotted around the southwest. Hello.
Hello, Ricky.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. All good.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, I've got Team Refrigeration branded up today. I've just realised I've got the wrong bloody jumper on.
Can you get a sticker over it?
Let me see what I can find. I found a rocket stick.
Oh, that's good. It's like poking out. It's like a rocket ship. I love it.
Put that there for a minute.
That is good. Why we're here? Both promote the fact that this has been a collaboration that has worked well, and the ultimate outcome is that it's enabled us to think about some processes moving forward, and in our case, right, like some things that we've changed as a result of onboarding you guys, what a success looked like. So we could talk a little bit about kind of the key ingredients to a positive partnership. And I guess, why are we making this video? It's to help others who are potentially in a situation of modernizing. It's to help them understand where the pains are, what the challenges are, how you can overcome them, and what you can do to overcome them, right?
Yeah, I would agree, really. I think from our perspective, it was all about bringing things up to date, and we'd looked in the market for a long time, probably at least a couple of years, at the solutions that were out there, and we were very much torn between the kind of longer standing, shall we say, technologies that were available, and then the sort of newer up and coming brands and technologies that were out there. And it took us a long time because we had quite specific needs. Being an operator, I think when we started looking, we had 6 sites, and now having 9, we're not a single site operator, but we're not massive, we're not national. We had unique probably needs in that sense, and we needed a system that could grow with us. It is the truth, and things came close, but we never got quite there. And for me, it had to be right. We used to use a proper hire software, but it wasn't a proper database. We had all of this duplication of data, having to manually enter data multiple times. It didn't have a central hub of data where it would store the information. So that made things really difficult. Really, because of that, we understood the importance of getting it right moving forward. We weren't going to rush to make the wrong decision. So we looked for a long time, and there was bits of really good stuff out there, and we lent more towards the new and emerging technologies because our feeling was that they would grow with the changes in tech that are coming and have been in the last sort of few years, especially around AI and stuff. So that we definitely lent towards the kind of newer technologies from the outset because of that. And it was just a case of timing, really. I think we were really keen to do something, because the longer we left it, the more we realized that not having an ability for customers to book online and all of those sorts of things was really having a negative impact on the business. And an impact that we couldn't really measure, because you just don't know what you don't know when you don't have that. And like the thing that really swung it for us was the API with Storeganise and the ability for us to then connect it in with our CRM because of that, and all of the kind of other functionality that enables. So I think that was, for me, the real sort of tipping point, alongside the sort of initial conversations that we had, and the collaborative approach that you guys were willing to take, in as much as getting to understand our business and our needs, and trying to understand how the product or the software could be adapted for that in its current or in its current state at that time, or what could be done in the future to better accommodate it. So it wasn't just a here's what we offer, does that work? There was much more of a what else could it do to enable it to transition more smoothly, like from what we were using to Storeganise.
Yeah. And actually, interestingly, I was thinking about this. We have this idea of a deal cycle, right? A sales cycle. And depending on the operator, the size, the complexity of their situation, like whether they're migrating from an existing software or maybe it's just migrating from an Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
There's a lead time to close a deal or to create a partnership, to sign on the dotted line, so to speak.
Yeah.
And usually it's longer depending on the complexity of those variables. Whereas what surprised me, and this kind of goes back to what you said about you'd obviously been, the timing was pinpoint because you'd obviously come from years potentially of reviewing different softwares, reviewing what's right for you. And when you kind of came out of nowhere in a way, and I'm sure we did with you.
Yeah.
I know your technical kind of guys heard about the API and the possibilities of it, and it was that from initial conversation to then starting to build out the partnership together was a very short period of time. So it's interesting that you knew what you wanted, and then it was verified in some testing, obviously, and some demos, right?
Yeah, exactly that. We weren't in the rush to do the wrong thing, but when the right thing presented itself, there was nothing really to hold us back on the basis of, as like you say, we'd done years of research. Hazel and Julian, before I'd even really got involved, had been looking, because we knew that the system we were using was suboptimal. And really, it was a final push was, right, we know what we want. We've done all this research. Storeganise presented itself with all of the capabilities that it has, and an API which was rare to find, but really what we needed. And I think that was probably what had been nagging at us and holding us back doing anything previously. So once that was understood and established, we were ready to just jump straight in and tried it, right? I've always been one to be sure about something, and I don't like to procrastinate on a decision because speed is everything, but also you've got to make sure that it's going to work in the way that you think it will. And going back to our previous software, when we signed up to it, we believed it would work in ways that it didn't. So it was absolutely then. We very quickly established that Storeganise on paper was what we needed. So then it was like, straight into the kind of testing phase, building stuff out, running the trial at Tewkesbury, which quickly led into sort of site number 2 with us opening the indoor facility pretty quickly after we started the trial. And that was almost inevitable, because if the ambition was to move to Storeganise, which it was, then with a massive, and it's not massive, indoor facility, it's a small indoor facility, it's only got 182 units, but it's big in terms of number of units, considering that the outdoor facility right outside has only got 130 containers. And typically when we would open up an external site, we would put them down a number at a time. You wouldn't just put your 130 down, right? So it was big in those terms to us. So to load that all into our old system and then have to duplicate it in Storeganise felt silly, when we could just run it in Storeganise, and if for the worst case scenario it didn't happen, then we would just have to move it back to the old system. And just, rather than duplicate the data up front, I chose to just run it straight into Storeganise and be optimistic about it. And and that was great for the customers as well then.
Yeah, like I'm a firm believer in, obviously, try before you buy, right? And that's why we've got these trial accounts, right? That we encourage operators to just do whatever you can on the free version. They try to go through, map out all of your business processes, all of your migration challenges, try to get as many answers as you can to your questions before in the trial. But then one thing I've realized also about this collaboration is, if you're a multi-site family-owned business, yes, you've got the trial account, but you've also got quite a low risk pilot program where, like you had Tewkesbury, let's bring that one on board, iterate, validate with that one site. And I think that's something that we're so, as a business now, having worked with you guys, is the confidence that we've got now to say, just bring one site over. It's almost like a standard practice for us now, is to say that we pilot it with one. It's lower risk for everyone. It's less resources from an onboarding perspective for us, and even arguably your staff.
Yeah, and from my perspective, Tewkesbury is not our biggest site, but it's not our smallest site either. And the temptation was to go, let's just take one of our newer facilities that's up and coming with a low number of units on it, because the low numbers makes it easy. But then because it's low numbers, I just didn't feel like that would be a fair trial. So we put it's 130 unit external container site and was at like 90+% occupancy at the time. So there was plenty of units to go in and upload. There was lots of customer data to upload. Yeah, hats off to Archie here, who ran a lot of the data side of it. He pulled all of the data out of our old system, got it into a format where it fitted the template to upload to Storeganise, and then jumped on a call with Miles, and I think he uploaded it in 2 minutes when we got to like the unit rentals bit. And at that point, I think we'd already gone through the process with the actual units, laid out the site map and all that sort of stuff. So that's the way we've typically done it. We've uploaded all of the units, got the site and everything set up fully on Storeganise, and then put the customer data in. And it's great. You can see the site map come to life. It goes from everything available to everything as it should be in like the click of a button. And that's, I think, probably one of my favorite things about it is the export and import function. You can just literally make instant changes if you need to. And we've got to a point now where I can upload a site fully without any assistance apart from the customer data. I can set the site up, the units up, everything to get it operational. And then Archie's our kind of data master here, and he'll pull all the unit rental data out of our previous system. And so like the last, because obviously we're all in now, every site is fully up and operational. The last, I think 3 or 4 of the facilities, Archie pulled everything. And there was a bit of trial and error. I think there was a kind of a morning of head scratching and heads in hands at times, but once he figured it out, and he was just determined to not need the support. But I did say, look, Miles has always said, just ask. And when we did it with Miles the first time, it took 2 minutes, so I did have to say, look, they're there to support us for a reason. But actually the knowledge he then gained made it so easy for us to do the last ones without any assistance at all. And it's just so intuitive. It's just straightforward. So
what would you say in terms of advice to other operators, right? Because for me, it feels like the migration piece to this, like you're an established multi-site operator, maybe on a current system, whatever system that might be, however you're managing things. What would you say is to someone who, because the migration piece seems to me like one of the biggest blockers to change. It's how am I going to keep my business running as usual if I'm going to be migrating to a new software that none of my team know?
I think from my perspective, I've never used another self-storage specific operational management software. But that almost made it harder for us because we were coming from a system that was not really designed to do what we were doing with it. So actually the migration of data was probably more difficult because of that. And if we managed to do it, then kind of anybody could. I think absolutely the trial of the first site is key, and trialing on a significant enough site to make the trial worthwhile. I'm just presenting any challenges or questions to you guys, and whether that be through the support email. We've managed to make things work that when I looked at it, even recent stuff where I was trying to get my head around, for example, we have van hire, but we charge an admin fee for the insurance, and it's not an upfront product, so we haven't added it as a product to Storeganise. but we need to be able to bill customers for it. And I couldn't really figure out how that would work. And me and Archie had a sort of a sit down and get together. And then the outcome was to add it as a charge. So we could have it as a one-off charge, and you can add that then retrospectively, rather than the customer having to have it up front and sign for it when they sign up, because they might need it there and then, or they might need it when they're moving out and things like that. I think, my key things are like a significant enough trial on a good established site. We don't use any sort of big branded accountancy software. So I should imagine for anybody using something like Xero, you're going to find it much, much easier than we did. And the integrations there, which we haven't benefited from, but I'm working on that. Hopefully there'll be a move to Xero one day to make that nice and seamless. And really just leaning into you guys and seeing it as a collaborative project. I never felt like we were the customer and you were the supplier. It was very much a team thing, and that was felt from probably everybody, from Miles, yourself, from BJ and the support guys. Just the way that things were dealt with made it feel like it was more than just a transaction. So that would be my kind of advice to anybody who's looking and considering their options. I think, and again, I can't attest for kind of anybody else, but that for me has to be key, and the ongoing support has to be there as well, which it is. And we've experienced, not in the self-storage industry, but we've experienced other softwares where, and I expect everybody has, where the ongoing support isn't what it should be. It just makes it such a difficult process to go through. So it was refreshing to have that.
Yeah. I think one of those benefits of having a team distributed globally is that there's always a support rep online to help you, no matter what time of day it is. One thing that struck me is, and I think I've mentioned this before, now when we're doing onboardings or partnerships with companies like yourself, we are insisting on doing something which you actually suggested that we do, which was bring us in at an earlier stage, so that we get that, because that buy-in from the whole team when you're doing when you're trying to get, and you're to a certain degree, you're a distributed team, right? You've got people distributed all over the UK, right? And so it's you have your offsites, and they're the moments where you're all together and discussing strategy and celebrating the wins together. And I thought that was a great platform for us to be invited into that sort of space and present back to everyone. And that's now something, thanks to you, that we're almost insisting to help that transition. And because I think the last thing you want is kind of maybe someone who's reluctant to change, and everyone is reluctant to change to a certain degree, but you always have a couple of champions and sponsors, and you want to try and lean on them. But it's about amplifying that, and in order to do that, bringing us in and presenting back to your team, I think was I felt like that was a really positive experience for the collaboration. Did you see that also? I
think that was a really cool moment for the whole team, because it's great for me to go, there's this great new software and it's going to change the game, and customers are going to be able to book online, and they're going to be able to download their own invoices, so you're never going to have to take that call again where you have to download them all and email it to them and blah blah blah, blah. Because the team know that I run at quite a fast pace. So actually, when we have our quarterly offsites, and we get everybody in a room for a reason, and that reason is because nobody has the monopoly on good ideas. Everybody sees our business from a different perspective, and I genuinely believe that the ideas of the team will solve all of the problems that we're going to come up against. So we do that quarterly, but it's also to present new ideas, and it was new, and like you say, people aren't always keen on change, and that's just natural. And for you to be able to be on the big screen in that room and talk them through really straightforwardly how intuitive the software is and what it looks like from their perspective and what the customer will see, that just, if there was a lack of buy-in at any point, there definitely wasn't after that point.
And I remember creating a little small presentation for it as well. It's one of the first presentations I've done in a while, but keeping it obviously super simple, but I didn't want to do not a death by PowerPoint, but or even a boring product demo. It had to be relevant to your business, and I think that that's something that we've started to do more of.
And I think that's probably was a key moment in the collaboration as well, because that's when the questions started coming out from the users. Again, I don't use our software every day. I have recently because I've implemented this and I've wanted to champion it and really have all of the knowledge. So when the questions come, because they have thick and fast, I can have the answer. But yeah, I think that was when the questions really started, and it helped me to open my eyes about actually what does it look like operationally from a high level, and strategically it seemed great, but actually, yeah, you answered quite a lot of questions on the day, which were the kind of more operational stuff, which I just wouldn't even think to ask. So I think that was a key point in the collaboration, because the team then had a voice as well, and it wasn't just you and I or me and your team. It was both teams then felt comfortable to work together.
Yeah, and everyone uses the software in different ways, right? Each buyer personas, right? You're going to interact with the software very differently to one of your mission controllers, perhaps on a daily basis anyway. Yeah, it's about trying to demonstrate the benefits and the value at different levels of the business. So that's great.
Absolutely. You think they use it for the operational, the move-ins, the move-outs, knowing what's going on, and then you've got kind of Chris and I and Julian, who will look at the analytics and will be looking at the data and the trends and passing that information onto the marketing team for them to deduce what they can from it and work on, well, now we know that these campaigns had this effect. What do we do differently? Like, where are we versus our sort of targets, and what promotions can we run as a result of that? So yeah, giving them some more data about the performance is much better.
And you guys, because with the Tewkesbury launch, you guys were, I noticed there was you drive reviews, right? Customer reviews to help with your marketing and PR, online presence. And I noticed that they're often your mission controllers. Is it mission controllers, right? The people, they're often referenced, right? As are there targets associated to that, or how does that work? Because I'm interested, because I think it's such an interesting thing for operators now, because obviously, especially in the UK, self-storage, the market in general is becoming a little bit more saturated. You have to be a bit more competitive, and one way to do that is to just look after your customers, right?
For us, the customers are at the heart of everything, and in a market where there's more push towards unmanned sites and automation, we're really steadfast in our mission controllers, and we believe in the service that we provide. We don't have set targets around Google reviews, but you're right to note that very few of them don't mention by name somebody in the business who they've dealt with, and that reinforces that massively for me. We're in a people business. I think pretty much every business is a people business, despite the sort of technologies around in 2025. So yeah, we don't have hard and fast targets around it, but it is a focus of ours. We do the odd competition with a bit of a prize for the mission controller who can improve their number of Google reviews by the sort of most percentage over a given time period, to try and keep it fair, given that we've got young sites and we've got sites that have been around for 10 plus years with lots more customers. Easier for them to grow their number of reviews. So yeah, if we're going to do something like that, we tend to do it on like a percentage basis, but they just understand, they just get it. And we're a values-led organization, and one of our values is it's your business, work with integrity and pride. And they really take that seriously. And I know that because the reviews reflect it. If they weren't taking that seriously, we wouldn't be getting any reviews at all for a start, never mind the quality of the reviews that we get, and the fact that they name the mission controller in the kind of majority of them as well.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's really cool. I look forward to your customers mentioning Storeganise, when they see the little booking engine in there.
That's it. And I think you do quite often see in the reviews as well, people say how easy the process was. And given we've been doing this for over 20 years, and given how complicated the back end of our old system was, that's not just happened. It wasn't easy for the customer by accident. Like that's taken a lot of hard work. And one of the other reasons for moving to Storeganise is to back that up and take that to another level, and just keep making the process as straightforward. Like, removing as many blockers to purchasing our storage as possible.
Absolutely. What's next? How do you see the partnership, the collaboration, the business growing now over the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
I think for me going forward, it's really about properly integrating with Pipedrive, our CRM. I think, and I know you guys use Pipedrive as well, and we've used Zapier, move data between the two, and we continue to do that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the native integration of those two. That's going to be really game changing for us. It isn't officially in our roadmap yet, but it's in my kind of mental roadmap that we will move to something like Zero. So again, native integration there, because of our existing accounting software, the move to Storeganise has been not challenging, but from an accountancy and back end side of things, it's not, there's no native integration to what we're using, and quite obviously because it's not self-storage specific. So we're making it work right now. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to, for us specifically, moving to something like Zero, and then more directly between us and Storeganise moving forward, just that kind of open communication. You guys knowing that you've got a multi-site operator that operates at the level that we do, and I do genuinely believe we operate at a good standard, and we do put the customer first, which I think that's a massive shared value of ours. Yeah, working on new things that come up, how we can integrate new technologies as they come. I'd like to work on some sort of a dashboard in the analytics where we can maybe potentially customize what that looks like, so that different users can get into the analytics and customize it for how they, and that's something that I've not really played with yet. And I know that there is an element of customization in there already, but for example, being able to add in our forecast or target in terms of the number of units that we set targets on a monthly basis for how many occupied units we'll have at each site, so we could see that all in one place. So yeah, I see there's lots of development that we can work on together, and just keep making it better and better.